Aloha, guys, and welcome in. This is a very special Week 8 wrap-up going into Week 9. We had a killer week. Killer week. Best I can find on YouTube. I've scoured all of the other pundits. They all, respect to all of them. What they do, what we do is not easy. It's a lot time-consuming. That being said, we went 5-0 on our picks. Period. End of story. Point blank. We actually went 6-0 if you count the Baltimore debacle, which we gave out Baltimore, but we told you, hold on, wait to make sure Jackson. But so I got some feedback. Some people couldn't wait. They had to put it in. We were like, well, you've got two options, which is bet it the other way to, kind of even it out minus the 5% generally is what the VIG is. Or we told people that they do have our contact, was like, stick with it. Then it went down to 2.5. Some people felt they wanted to bet it anyway. We still liked Baltimore, but it was not one of our 5 picks. But we kind of got a freebie there. We got lucky. For sure we got lucky. But we got a freebie there. And then number 7 and 8, we did say on the record, we said to take Indianapolis Colts, because we knew of the interest in that game. Take Indianapolis and take Kansas City, but do it on a teaser for the people that were nervous laying such huge numbers. Excuse me. And so all in all, we basically went 7-0 if you count a teaser as one play, or 8-0 totally on our picks across the board. My son is going to show you some of those numbers here. I've got a few pictures for you. We have our double up pick, which we stuck with. We told you was Buffalo. We'll show you our ticket. So we're 800 in the plus there on our week 2 of our 9-week quest for the double up. Buffalo Buffalo is -7, and we bought back a half a point because we didn't want to tie. So anyway, we'll get to all of that and more. Guys, the refs, what the hell? What is going on with the referees? There is some shady poop going on. It's been a while now. Look back at New Orleans versus the Rams in the playoff game with the pass interference that was never called. That was the most egregious, which actually made the league go to coaches being able to challenge pass interference for a year, which of course they got rid of because of it's a control thing. We'll get into all of that. I've been saying this for years. I caught Bruce Arians saying this earlier this week, but I've been saying this for years. Recruit ex-players to keep up physically versus the 50-year-old Vinovich, who is one of the worst referees in the league. Remember the guy that's on CBS right now, the ex-referee that's their analyst, right? He stuck the index card out of the pocket in between the chain and the ball. And so there was room showing space between the chain and the ball. And first down. Like, dude, your mind was backwards because what you intended to show, you proved it wasn't a first down. And he stuck with the call, which was ridiculous. I mean, look at some of these expediteds that they're doing now, reviews. And again, some teams like the Kansas City Chiefs get all these expedited reviews and reversals without a coach's challenge, where other teams like the Seahawks or the lowly, Cleveland Browns, they get all the poop put on top of them by the referees. So we'll get into all of that as well. Because bottom line, players know the game. They wouldn't be intimidated by any situations. They're physically fit. Train them, hold them accountable with weekly reviews, but it's a control thing. It's the NFL being able to control the outcomes, and we'll get into all of this. I'll say this now, I'll go on the record. If my conspiracy theory is correct and true, like 9/11 happens, the country really needed something to galvanize us, and the red, white, and blue Patriots win the Super Bowl with the Tuck rule. Remember the Tuck rule, which was very controversial, because otherwise we've got the Raiders in that Super Bowl, but the country needed it. So the Patriots, and I hate to say any of this because Brady's a GOAT. Brady is a legit. The players are legit. The players work their butts off. They're physically gifted by God, and they work their asses off. But as you guys are starting to learn, a referee, not even a ref, a back judge, an umpire, any of the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, New York now, any of them can throw a flag. If you got the worst team in the league, who's still a bunch of pros, versus the Kansas City Chiefs, the best team in the league, and they get down to the red zone, and they're first down, second down, third down, they can't get it in. But on the third down, you get an illegal contact, which is very judgment call. It happens on every play. An illegal contact, a holding, pass interference, a little bit more egregious, so they don't call that. But again, hands to the face, illegal contact, holding, in another 3 downs and an automatic first down, and even a little bit closer. And you give any team 3 more tries, so 6 total, or 7 with the 4th down, or even, I saw a game this weekend, they gave them like 9 tries, and of course they got it in, because again, these guys are pros, and you give a pros, the defense can only buck up and hold so long. Next conspiracy law, like 9/11, Katrina, right? The state needed it, the community needed it, the country needed this, and to rally around it. And so, next thing you know, the worst, the Aints, one of the historically worst teams ever in the league, the Aints win the Super Bowl. Again, I hate to say this, because Drew Brees is a GOAT. He is a baller. He's one of the greatest that's ever played this game. But again, the referees, a game-changing call, an extra first down, a momentum killer, a momentum changer, that will turn a game on a dime. Here's my point. If I'm right, and if the conspiracy theories are holding true, I really put some thought behind this and common sense, and I looked at it from a lot of different angles. The Colts are playing way above their weight class right now. No one, ESPN, all the pundits, all the shows you listen to, all the radio shows across the country, who had the Indianapolis Colts with 1 loss going into this week? No one. No one had the Indianapolis Colts going. Everybody was screaming about fire the GM, and Colin Cowherd, who is one of the most level-headed and intelligent pundits out there. We follow him like a shadow. And like fire the GM. They're a quarterback away, because their personnel across the board is good. We said it here before week 1 about their tight end, Tyler Warren. We said this guy is the 2.0 of the Raiders tight end the year before in fantasy. And their O-line is solid. Their defense is playing lights out. They've got Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in the league. He's got 3 touchdowns in 3 games. And with his he's on the Saquon Barkley path that was last year, except he's got more touchdowns. And then you've got Daniel Jones, who is like one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now by performance and rating. Anyway, we're going to get into all of that, but I'm just on the record, the receipts count, and we're saying it here first today. If my conspiracy theory holds true, you've got 32 billionaires who, again, I don't know what it's like to be a billionaire, but I can imagine. And you think that you're a king, you think that you're a controller, you think that you run the world. They absolutely control the league. It's their league. They own it. 32 guys in a room own this. And what a better tribute to one of their own. Jim Irsay dies. No matter what the cause and the effects and the storyline behind his death, it's always sad. And he was a good man by all accounts. He had his issues, he had his demons, but he was a good man. And what a tribute it would be for the Indianapolis Colts to make a run to the Super Bowl this year. So again, and we'll get into how you can make money on all of this as we get to it. But let's start again with how we normally start, and we're going to start. Sorry, we're already 5 minutes into this, but we're going to start with our saying of the week, and you guys are going to love this one because it's by Vince Lombardi, NFL. What great! And it goes to our 5-0, possibly 6-7-0 week last week. Not to mention, we will show you guys a over/under totals that we had parlay that hit. 8-0, $7 got us almost $1,100, but we'll toot our own horn down the road with that. We'll show you some pictures on that. But Lombardi said, perfection is not attainable. But if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. And that's what we did this weekend. We caught some excellence. So there you go. And so now let's get into our wrap up of the week here. We we're going to show you guys as well another picture of a 16 parlay that, stupid me, we did not round robin. And part of it is your budget, right? Round robins aren't cheap because it's like you're betting, depending on how you're doing it. A 6-teamer you can do by 2s, by 3s, by 4s, by 5s. And you can do them by all, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. That gets very expensive. But we always do, but we like to test ourselves, and we like to keep account and records. And we did a 16 parlay this week that we hit 5 out of 6. And again, taking our own advice, had we played it by the 5s, we would have hit one that would have covered the cost on the whole thing. But if you could afford it, and if you're prudent or pragmatic even, and did it by 4s, you would have hit 14 parlays. Just some food for thought. And again, I'm sharing the 16 parlay with you, where this is exactly what we could have done and it should have happened. But again, we're fine. We did good this week. We made some money, but we just we like to really flex the best picks we can and play them in the best possible ways we can. That's why we always try to guide you guys on buying back points, teasing stuff, doing certain things. And we bring the receipts to show it, as we will be doing again this week. We'll get those on here tonight. It's Wednesday right now, just for you guys' information. We're going to show you the double up we did with Buffalo. And we bought the half a point so we wouldn't tie. And so we did the 6.5, but we ended up cashing out over 800 on week 2. So we're right on track there. We'll also be showing you an 18 parlay, like I said, that we hit on totals. But if you've been following us from the beginning, in week 6, we showed you a totals parlay where we hit 5 out of 6. In week 7, we hit a 6 out of 7. And no, week 6 wasn't 6 because it was week 6 and 7 because it was week 7. It just worked out that way. And then, of course, this is week 8, which again has nothing to do with it. But week 8, we did it. We nailed it. We got 8 for 8. My only point is the totals are our strength. We're finding out that we're super accurate on that, and we're dialed in on that, and winning is winning. So although people do prefer sides, we noticed that a lot of people feedback that we get, people want the side of a game. We want to give you, the people, the best plays, period. And if it's an over or an under, that's what we do. In fact, we'll even be showing you a ticket where we did last minute, where we took Green Bay and the over on the Pittsburgh game because we wanted to prove that we were on the side of Green Bay, where a lot of people were on the side of Pittsburgh at home. Tomlin in that spot, we get it, but we said Green Bay needs to put this all together. Ever since week 1 and week 2, they've kind of there's been something missing, right? They've been playing like the Arizona game. They really played, it was a weird, they kept letting, with this defense that Green Bay has and their offense with Jordan Love, they should be humming. They should be one of the top tiers like Philly and Detroit. But yet, and Micah Parsons now but there's something that's been missing. And we said that if they got to start putting it together, and against Pittsburgh on the road in a hostile environment, this would be the game where they would want to do that. So we did a last minute parlay where we took Green Bay and the over. By our analysis, we liked the over, and then it went well over, and it was a cover, easy cover. And then on Monday night, we liked Kansas City, even minus 11.5. We never like laying that kind of wood. That's why we did the teaser with Indy. But we laid it, and we took the under, which is super hard in this case, because when you're given double digits, but you're trying to stay under, it's very hard to do both. We felt that Mariota, although we love the guy, he's a Hawaii boy, he's got nothing but a great attitude and nothing but aloha and love for him. He's not Jaden Daniels. And we figured that at best they would be good for 10-14, where Kansas City would cruise to about 28-31, and they would then, we felt they would maybe, once they get a big lead like that, because their run game has been so lackluster, they'd start working on Pacheco and Kareem Hunt running out the ball, running out the clock. And when you've got Mahomes, you always are going to get first downs, and keep that clock running. It was great that both teams drove down in the first quarter to the end zone area, or the red zone areas, and turned it over, because that bought us a whole dead first quarter, which is exactly what we needed to stay on the under. But again, to recap as well, we hit 5 out of 5, but also had that 6th lucky pick on Baltimore, but the 7th and the 8th on Indy and KC teaser. So congratulations to everyone that has started following us and listening to us and taking our picks and cashing at the window. Congratulations, you guys. We didn't miss anything. So no matter how you teased it, how you parlayed everything, or how you bet any or everything, you hit everything, and that's what we're trying to attain. Again, this is going to be I'm sure it's going to be a rare week. You're not going to have where it's so easy to go 5-0, 5-0, 5-0. But we'll show you guys down the road. Like we keep track with like the ESPN app, and we are well in the money on our college and our pro. We don't do college here. It's we've already talked about that. Where it's just too time consuming. But that being said, we are well above. We're in the 70-something percentile for our college picks, and we are at like the 68 percentile in our pro picks. In any event, you are in the plus. You are in the money. So there you go. We wanted to touch on, guys. Now, in some of the other pundits that we gather, like we said, there's no locks in this business. What it is we spend 40 to 60 hours a week gathering all the information, listening to all these other guys. We keep records. We know who's really like genuine, they're really accurate, and who are the fly-by-nights that, 1 week they might go 4-1, but the next week they're 1-4, and you pull your hair out with guys like that. We like the guys that are consistently 3-2 or better. We do pay for some of the services that we follow, so that we're giving that to you guys for free. We're collecting all this data. We listen to a bunch of podcasts and a bunch of pundits that make the most sense. They give us the most food for thought. They point us in the right directions of what games to really hone in on and look at, and also perspectives that we may not consider. So all of that combined, we do all of that. And anyway, why I'm bringing this up, we heard an interesting one this week where there's one group that are saying bet Baltimore to win the AFC North. We don't disagree. But here's the problem. You're laying 140. You're laying 140 to win 100, and you've still got 9 weeks. 9 weeks to go, right? Till you find out. For us, that juice isn't worth the squeeze. A better bet, and here so get your pens out, because here we go. The better bet to us is to bet Lamar Jackson for MVP, and here's why. It's a 10,000 to 100 right now, or basically in true odds, it's 1,000 to 1. You bet, what is it? If you bet $100, you win 10,000. So if you bet $10, you win 1,000. You bet $1, you win 100. So the bottom line, it's 100 to 1. It's 100 to 1 right now, where at the beginning of the year, before the kickoff, he was one of the odds-on favorites. It was him and Josh Allen to win the MVP. Excuse me. And so that's a horrible bet at the beginning of the year. Like we showed you guys the exactas we've done. And we'll get to that point. In the exactas, because Baltimore was a bad bet by odds at the beginning of the year, that we don't have any tickets with Baltimore making the Super Bowl. But here's how you can cover that now, today, run down this week, and bet Lamar Jackson for MVP. If they make a run where they're going to get to the Super Bowl, and the writers have to put their votes in, I think, after the first week of playoffs, which Baltimore will absolutely be in if they win the North or if they make the playoffs, because they're not going to be a number one seed. It's mathematically impossible at this point. They will absolutely have one playoff game under their belt the writers are going to refer to as well. If the knock on Lamar is that he chokes or can't win the playoff game. Well, if he was to win out between now and the end of the season, go undefeated, all more than likely because of him, not in spite of him, and then win his first playoff game, I think it's a good bet that if you've got an extra $50 laying around to bet Lamar Jackson MVP, that would be your kind of, and the beauty to it, they don't need to make the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl for you to cash out. He just needs to win the MVP, which I think at this point, based on the odds, it's a lot better bet. Along those lines, again, we will at some point throughout the season, we'll show you guys all of our exacta bets that we did. We had LA Chargers as one of the front runners to make the Super Bowl. We had Denver. We had the LA Chargers. So Denver, LA Chargers. Who was the other one that we had? We have Tampa. We have Green Bay. We had Pittsburgh. And I was actually talked out of it because Pittsburgh, I know that they're going to be a middle of the road team by end of the year. But we had a funny feeling with Aaron Rodgers and everybody getting used to him being there and how they were going to approach this and play this. And we also honestly thought their defense was going to be a lot more stout. We were wrong there. But neither here nor there, they're leading the AFC North. They look like they probably could even win it, the AFC North, if they win a couple of key games from now to the end of the year. Anyway, so we have them in there as one of our, but the long shots, the payouts were amazing. We have one where Denver and Seattle meet in the Super Bowl. We showed this at the beginning during week 1, how to turn $5 into 10,000. And what that was for like a $10 bet, we're looking at cashing in about $16,000 as long as Denver and Seattle meet in the playoff in the Super Bowl, because we have them both ways. Denver winning against Seattle or Seattle winning against Denver, and it costs us $20 all in. And either way, it's like a $14,000 or $16,000 payday if that exact thing were to happen. And that's what we're getting at. To that point, we, as well as everybody else in the world, missed the Indianapolis Colts angle. We did not see this coming. How can we buy protection for that right in this moment? I'll tell you. Jonathan Taylor and Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, are both about, I looked it up last night, they're about 20 to 1, depending on your book. From Hard Rock to FanDuel to DraftKings. DraftKings seems to be the most liberal, or they give the most. They're much, their odds are much better as for you, the player, than it seems I can find anywhere else. So maybe a little shout out to them. That being said, Jonathan Taylor and Danny Dimes or Daniel Jones, the quarterback for Indy, both are about a 20 to 1, give or take. If you missed on the long shot exacta Super Bowl bets on this team, Indianapolis, bet both of them to win the MVP, because Jonathan Taylor's having a year, and if he continues on this track, it's going to be hard for the writers to ignore that, because he's on the Saquon Barkley trajectory, but he's got the touchdowns to back it up, where Jalen Hurts was doing a lot of tush-push last year at the 1 yard line, which took a lot of Saquon's potential touchdowns away from him. Okay, along those lines, then it made me start thinking. I also looked up Jalen Hurts, and if you look at this guy can get no respect. I'll give you some stats real quick. Jalen Hurts through this season, better than a 70% completion rate, 70.2% completion rate. He's got 1,677 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and only 1 interception, with a passer rating of 114.4, plus 207 rushing yards. And some of those short yardage, remember a tush push, he's only getting that 1 yard, is that's what they're going for. So his average might be low, but the 207 is, again, rare air. With that, he has 5 touchdowns already. If you ask the Google AI or any AI to average out based on weeks 1 through 8, what he's done thus far, what is the average potential outlook for Jalen Hurts end of year? He's on pace. Obviously, it's going to be under 4,000 passing yards, but it's going to be respectable in the 3,000s, along with about 400 to 500 yards rushing. But the TDs are going to be 42 touchdowns to 2, possibly 3 interceptions. We're not saying that's what's going to happen. It doesn't average out with quarterbacks. A game takes on a personality of its own, and he could go out in a game and throw 3 interceptions and 0 touchdowns. Our point is as a front runner, that with all those stats, you would think he would be a front runner for the MVP. Yet when we looked it up, I was shocked to see he's somewhere on the low end of 2,200 for 100 or 22 to 1, and on the high end I found a 28 to 1 and it's through MGM. So shout out to them. So to me, if you've got a little bit of extra coin laying around, that would be another one. I'm personally this week going down and I'm going to do Jonathan Taylor for MVP, Danny Dimes or Daniel Jones for MVP because I don't have Indy, and Philly again was too expensive. It wasn't worth because they were an odds-on favorite, so it wasn't worth betting them in our exactas for the Super Bowl bets. But now that Hurts is showing us 8 weeks in, he's an MVP candidate, and he's still getting 2,800 to 1, or 2,800 for the 100. We're going to absolutely lay that as well, and we're going to do Lamar Jackson. We gather all the info and we watch everything, and I'll reiterate, teams are separating themselves and clear tiers are being established in the NFL. We'll get to that in a minute. And so, but again, if you guys have the extra scratch laying around, those 4 for MVP, we're not calling those. I'm doing those 4 because I have so many exacta combinations of AFC versus NFC teams, like the Patriots. We called the Patriots versus Tampa Bay as one of our final outcomes for Super Bowl. The Patriots versus the Rams. We have some good look-aheads where we got really good odds, where $10 is getting us 4, 5, 6,000 or more. We've got a couple of losers. My wife put on one where, because Cam Ward, you don't know, he could be the next Mahomes. So we took like Tennessee versus the Rams, and it's like, I think it's like $40,000 but of course it's not going to happen. Tennessee is a dumpster fire, but it was a $5 bet. Couldn't hurt, make the wife happy, so we did that. Anyway, we'll get into it here with the tiers. Before we get into the spreads this week, the tiers are becoming more and more distinguishable. In the AFC, Indy this week, or the look ahead, I'm sorry, for the tiers and the separation. Kansas City clearly now, obviously by everyone's measure, is the team to beat. They are probably on the trajectory to get to the Super Bowl. But again, playoffs start, and it's a one and done, and anything can happen. And that's why we think it's so important, home field advantage, and Indy probably knows that as well as Buffalo better than anybody. But here we go with the AFC and the breakdown. Oh, excuse me. Had some pizza earlier, and it's coming back on me. Sorry. AFC, Indy this week is a statement to themselves. The Rams game where Indy lost that game would have been interesting, and it would have counted towards a lot of their momentum, but it was early, and they lost because they're young and still learning how to win. One rookie, everybody knows the story, he fumbled on the way to the end zone, then he got called for a holding where Taylor ripped off a 30-yard touchdown run, so basically he costed the team 14. Again, that's youth and inexperience along with brain fart. But anyway, this game this week on the road against an established Steelers team, even though the Steelers are not a top tier team anymore, they lead the AFC North. Tomlin's an old head coach, established, respected. A lot of this is perception, and the perception is that when it comes to the AFC, experts like Colin Cowherd, they're going to tell you Pittsburgh is more of a pretender than a contender. But in this game, in people's minds, recency bias, the Indianapolis Colts going on the road, going to Pittsburgh, winning this game means more than to their trajectory to getting to the Super Bowl and how they react. Now, if they lose it's not a world ender, because again, in life, when you get knocked down, the measure of a man is how you respond, how you pick yourself up and go forward from there. But that being said, it's the perception of what the Steelers represent that is important here in this moment when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts and them going on the road and beating them. The AFC tiers excuse me, are all also this week is a foundation that sets everyone's mind going forward. Denver defeating Houston, it's a big deal. Denver's got to show themselves they can go on the road and beat a top tiered defense with an offense that just showed they can move the ball. So, CJ Stroud's he's no slouch. Baltimore, will they start their run? Because they basically need to run the table. And it starts in Miami, where funny things happen. Tua at home is dangerous. That humidity with the Miami Heat, especially now in the fall where it's cool in most places. You go down to Miami, it sucks the life out of you, the players say. So that's a big deal. The Miami home field, from now to the end of the year, always be careful when Miami's playing at home because of that home field. It's the humidity and where they're on the field and what it does to the body. New England, can they win this trap game? This game screams trap. New England is giving Atlanta 5.5. Atlanta just came off of a horrible showing, right? But if Penix plays, if London comes back, and they do have, Bijan Robinson, one of the best running backs in the league, their defense is flying around. Can New England, they've been on a high, right? Win, 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 win. And like the good ones will tell you, right? Whether it's Dan Campbell or Mike Vrabel, you don't let the lows get you too low, and you don't let the highs get you too high. So can New England, can Vrabel teach them with the new culture change how to win in this trap game, especially at home when it's supposed to be kind of an easy one? LA Chargers, same as what I just said about New England, except that it's a road thing. And the Chargers already found out. They started out 3-0 in their division, and then fell off a cliff. And it's because you've got great senior leadership like Allen at wide receiver, Herbert now as a quarterback. Even though he's a younger guy, he's been around the league for a few years. He knows what's up. Now they've got Harbaugh leading them, who's one of the better coaches in the NFL, in the league, and keeping everybody's head on right. But the injury bug hit them. They've got some youngsters. And so, again, it's one of those things. You're learning how to win. Buffalo, can they beat the Chiefs? This game's not going to determine who's going to the Super Bowl per se, but it does make a statement. Chiefs can lose this game and keep pace no problem, because the Chiefs have been there, done that. Buffalo hasn't. Buffalo hasn't won the big one yet. And so for them, I think psychologically this game is so much more important, which I think that's why they could end up having problems in this game, because there's going to be a slight air of desperation on their side of things. Not to mention, Ed Oliver's out. They lost Taylor Rapp for the season, I believe, due to injury. That's their defense that's already got some holes in it. But two leaders like Ed Oliver and Taylor Rapp, you lose those two guys, big deal. So we're not making a pick yet. We're just letting you know to pay attention. But Buffalo, to us, needs this game more than KC won. And more than anything, and this goes across the board for the whole league, the number one seed is probably more crucial than any of these others, because where they'll play, and where with Buffalo, where are they right now in Josh Allen's career? He's 5 years into his career, and they've gotten close to the mountaintop, but KC has knocked them off, or they've fallen or failed along the way where they shouldn't have. Like, again, losing to Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and losing a couple games that they probably shouldn't have lost this year already against New England, and New England's in their division. So right now New England holds that tie, or that one game up over them. Now they're going to get a second chance at New England, and so they can make that right. And if they just win out and New England drops a game, then it becomes a race again. But until then, all the pressure's on Buffalo right now. So anyway, that's kind of the AFC look ahead. The NFC, you look at teams like Philly, who isn't playing their best right now, is the perception. And like I said, went through the stats earlier. Oh, by the way, Hurt is on an MVP pace. So perception is really skewed, in my opinion, with a lot of the pundits. I know Philly radio, they're tough on their teams, man. But just looking at it in a vacuum, Hurt is on an MVP pace, and no one's paying attention or even waiting. And everyone, I'm sorry, is waiting for that downfall where he's not the quarterback. Same quarter. Look, he won Super Bowl and the MVP for Super Bowl, and he's been to two, and he should have, by all rights, won the other one versus Kansas City. So I think that he really doesn't get a fair shake. For some reason, people are just waiting for him to kind of fall on his face. I don't care if he falls on his face. He's already proven to me that he's a winner, and he's legit, and he can win at this level and tier, and he is a top. Would I build a team around him? Probably not, because I believe in a different style. But the coach in Philly and what they're doing in Philly, and Saquon running the ball, and the wide receivers they have, and Goddard as the tight end, and their deep, hey, they're getting it done. They're a contender, and they're dangerous. They're a tier 1 in the NFC. Bottom line, I don't think anyone can argue with that. And again, talking about people waiting for his downfall, and they keep betting against him. Yeah, they did that to a guy named Tom Brady, and people lost their shirts and kept betting the wrong side of Super Bowls for 20 years. So, at 2,200 to 2,800, yeah, I'm going to be taking Hurt this week as one of my MVP candidates. Green Bay, to me, well, let me go back. Detroit. Detroit is, to me, the best culture. They have the best culture. They have the best emotional and culture coach. And the team is bought in. They have the edge rusher. They have the linebackers. Their secondary depth and is questionable to a point. But we know that Campbell gets the most out of his guys. So even when the guy was suspended last week, the cornerback, somebody stepped right in and they didn't miss a beat. You wouldn't have even known the guy was suspended. Goff is a top tier pocket quarterback and one of the most accurate quarterbacks. And again, he's been there. He's been to the Super Bowl with the Rams, and he's got a lot of, like Tom Brady, a lot in the Rolodex, a lot of the learned failures. And with every failure, that guy becomes just better and stronger. And Goff is, by all accounts, one of the best guys just all around. One of the best men you're ever going to know or meet. Sorry about that. Somebody decided to try to call me in the middle of my week. All right. So, again, Detroit is, by all accounts, they've got Goff as a top pocket passing quarterback. You've got tight end, Laporta, top 5, definitely one of the best. Wide receivers, you've got a trio of them, but Amon-Ra, St. Brown. I mean, even the rookie, the kid Tesla, I like to call him Tesla. But, man, all heart and clutch in the moments. But Amon-Ra, I mean, come on. There's nobody more clutch than this guy. Their running game, Gibbs and Montgomery, are you kidding? Thunder and lightning or speed and power, however the nicknames and what they want to call them. Two of the best running backs, and Gibbs is very special. Gibbs is elite. Gibbs is like McCaffrey, who's lost a step this year, seems like. But you've got Gibbs, McCaffrey, Bijan, Saquon. I mean, those are some generational, one-of-a-kind guys. Somebody said that Gibbs might be one of the fastest running backs ever. So, I mean, and you've seen it. And like Achane, speed kills, especially when you hit those holes. They've got an O-line that can compete with anybody. Bottom line, they're very balanced. So you've got Philly and Detroit in that top tier. We put Green Bay kind of right under them for one reason. Green Bay seems to kind of turn it off and on, and they're more off than on. They're definitely top tier, but go to the Rams. I'm sorry, not the Rams. The Arizona game, right? That they won in Arizona, but barely. And the Cleveland game where they were winning by 10 and lost the game outright in Cleveland, right? They don't put the foot on the throat, right? They don't hammer it home. They don't nail in the coffin the other team. And we don't quite know why, because the coach is a good coach. The quarterback's seasoned enough. They've got a lot of senior leadership on this team. They know how to win. That's not their problem. But they just quite haven't kind of put it all together yet, is what our takeaway is. And so they're a team that can beat anybody on any given day, but they haven't quite shown us the consistency of Detroit. Even Tampa Bay has a better consistency, we would argue. Even though with everything with Tampa Bay, it's seat of the pants, and you're hoping for the Baker experience, which is miracles. But there's a consistency to it, right? Green Bay, you want to pull your hair out because they're better, they're stronger, they're faster, they better defense, better offense, all that, and yet they're toying around and losing games last minute to Cleveland and almost losing games to Arizona. So question mark there. We know they're a top tier, right under the Philly Detroit tier, but not quite there yet. But they'll be in the playoffs, no question. Then you've got, and this is where it gets really interesting, because then you've got the Rams, Seattle, and 49ers, or better known as the NFC West. And I, of course, you guys know, I am a homer Seahawks fan here. But they all kind of play the same, you'll notice. They all have their quarterback. They all have their wide receivers. With the Rams, they've got the best coach, one of the most seasoned QBs with a Super Bowl under their belts. They've got two wide receiver ones, right? With Adams, they could be a one on any other team, but they've got Puka, so they're a 1 and 1A. And then they've got this young ball-hawking defense that, man, at linebacker, at edge rusher, they get the job done. They hold everybody to a pittance of scoring. The same could be said, or the Seattle is kind of the same. Their running game, I would say, in Seattle is a little bit better with the 1-2 of Walker and Charbonnet. Their defense is flying around on the back end, a little bit faster on the back end. They've gotten a little bit better on the front, largely in part due to Big Cat Williams. Their linebacker core, ever since we lost, Bobby Wagner went on his way, and he's older anyway. And then Jordan Brooks, who now is in Miami. If we had Jordan Brooks, oh my God, I would be very curious to know what our defense would really look. But that being said, Seattle's defense has grown, and they're young, and they're all flying around, and they're hungry. And the coach, McDonald, comes from Baltimore, who had, under his tenure, some of the best defenses under his time there. And I think that he's built the same thing here in Seattle. And they've got some holes to fill. They still got there's no perfect team, it seems like, right now. Everybody's missing a little bit of this or that. And of course, an injury, that's it when it comes to certain positions. But we put Seattle and the Rams right neck and neck. And here's the thing with the NFC West. Seattle Rams, and we said the Niners. They will eliminate each other. Whoever is going to be the one that arises out of that mix, they'll let us know by the end of the year, because they also have to play each other. Seattle has lost to the Niners once, but that was week 1. We don't put a lot of credence into that. And Seattle could have easily won that game. Looked like they were going to win it till a fluke fumble happened. With the Niners, they just lost to Houston when Rams and Seattle had a bye, so that hurt them. And along those lines, here's what we think. When it comes to the 49ers, they're as good as the Rams or Seattle on any given day. But as you guys already know, the injury bug is hit them hard the last couple of years. They're now an aged team, and they're hanging on by a thread. Bosa's out for the rest of the year. Kittle just came back. Here's the thing with the Niners, we don't think that they're unlucky, and that's why they're the most injured. We think that they play the hardest, like the linebacker they just lost. He's a Hall of Fame type guy. He's arguably the best linebacker in the league when he got hurt. They play at 101% on every play. They keep each other accountable, and that makes a team super hard to beat and super dangerous like they are. But playing the way they play, the injury bug bites harder. They sustain more injuries because of the mentality and the way they play. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to that. they wouldn't be the team they are if they didn't play as hard as they do. But they play as hard as they do, and therefore they get injured a lot more. Where you get a lot of cornerbacks. You've heard the term over the years, right? That he made a business decision not tackling the guy, right? Like Derrick Henry's coming at him. Step out of the way because business decision, right? They got to stay on the field to keep getting paid. It's kind of that mentality that where Warner, he got hurt because he's always going 100 miles an hour and giving 101%. So, again, the tiers there is that. And then the last tier in the NFC, we would put it behind the NFC West is, of course, Tampa Bay and the Baker experience. But they, too, are now being hit with a lot of injuries. And honestly, the last week, if you watched the New Orleans game, they really got lucky getting out of there with a win because Baker was having not a great day. It started with him losing in Detroit 2 weeks ago, and it seems that we don't know if it's because all the different injuries. The running back was out. He's supposed to come back, Brooks, this week, but Evans is out. That he's a staple of the team. He's a leader of the team. He's one of the senior guys. Their defense, a bunch of injuries. Their O-line, bunch of injuries. So they're going to be interesting to watch going down the stretch because the law of averages are going to catch up with some of these miracle pullouts, like how Tampa almost came back to beat Philly, but they didn't because that was the law of averages, that they'd done it 2 or 3 games, including when they beat Seattle by a fluke interception that hit a helmet. And along those lines, that stuff balances out over time. And so Tampa can't keep winning like that. So the skill level and the injury bug is going to weigh on them. And so we put them in the tier right below the NFC West, still respectable and fighting, and potentially could on any given day upset any of these teams are the following in the NFC. Chicago, they're up and coming. Their quarterback still needs a lot of work, but their defense shows up and plays sometimes. Interestingly, their running game is getting better. And again, Caleb Williams getting smarter, getting better. Who knows? Dallas, as you saw this season so far, the number 1 offense in the league. Dak's playing out of his mind on an MVP pace as well. But their defense can't stop a runny nose. So where does that go with that? Because they wouldn't make it deep into the playoffs if they made it as a wild card, right? Washington, we don't know what's going to happen because they're super old as a team. But man, you've got leadership like Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz at linebacker and tight end. Those guys are coaches on the field. Quinn has shown you getting Atlanta to a Super Bowl and should have won the Super Bowl versus New England. But he's capable and he knows what he's doing. He's a good coach and he relates to the players. And they've got Jaden Daniels. Like Mahomes, he's a guy that can put a team on his back and win a game. But how many can he do? And now we found out his frame, his stature, all the hits, it's catching up. So is there a regression this year? We're still watching and learning. But what we're saying is, so we think Tampa would be the 7th team of all the teams we spoke about. We think that the NFC West, all 3 could make the playoffs. And Tampa. But if one of those teams should falter, on the outside looking in and capable of upsetting a team in the playoffs is Chicago, Dallas, Washington, and finally, you guys laughed me out of the building on this, I'm telling you, but maybe this is a far, like 1,000 to 1, but like they say, you're saying there's a chance. Jackson Dart and the New York Giants, because they just beat Philly soundly and showed you. That was without Malik, their number 1 wide receiver. He's out for the season. Now they lost Scatterbo. This team, though, is rallying and galvanized around this kid Dart. And he looks to be the kind of player like Mahomes is, where he can make the throws and he's got the legs and he's dangerous. And so we're not calling for we don't think the New York Giants are going to make the playoffs. We think they end up right around 6 or 7 wins at best. But what we're saying is that the teams we just named, Chicago, Dallas, Washington, and the Giants, be wary of them because they believe in their minds that they've got a chance, and it makes them dangerous. So there's that. And then if he started again with Dart, if he started playing consistently and played on average like he did during the day that they beat Philly, and he played like that, and the team played like that on offense and defense, you could argue they are a playoff contender, not a Super Bowl contender, but a playoff contender. Moving now on to real quick, we'll talk on Thursday for a minute here. Thursday is Baltimore at Miami. We are leaning towards Baltimore right now. Just before I came on today, I thought I saw the line move up to 8.5. If that happened, we're gonna look at this, take another look at this. At 7.5 and not too much interest on either side, or you've got basically even betting on both sides. Where there's some pros betting Miami because Miami at home in this kind of a spot, that's the sharp side. Obviously, Lamar coming back, the public's going to be betting on Baltimore. But if you get some sharps betting on Baltimore because of Lamar and they see something that the normal humans like us don't see, we're looking further into it. In the meantime, what we do like thus far, and we're comfortable in saying, again, this is not one of our picks, but being it is Thursday and we're talking to you guys today, we'll give you guys a lean in whatever we're looking at. And what we are finding right now is team total. If you can get Miami at 20 and the Ravens at 30, we like them both going over those team individual totals. And the game total over 50, we like that as well, because if they get into a shootout, Miami can move the ball at home. And Baltimore still got a bunch of issues on defense. Lamar coming back. A lot of people have said, well, Lamar hasn't played for 4 or 5 weeks, and he's not in sync. He's not in rhythm. Have you seen the guy play and run? He doesn't need but 2 minutes to get in sync and rhythm, and he can score at will. What we do think, too, is with him coming back, it'll inspire the whole team. And Derrick Henry is going to be running on them because Miami can't stop the run. And between Lamar and Henry, they'll have over 200 yards rushing. And Lamar will probably have about 180 yards passing, a couple of touchdowns to Zay, and Lamar having one probably himself, maybe two. Derrick Henry definitely having a touchdown, and probably getting the tight end, whether it's Mark Andrews or the younger tight end. But we could easily see them easily scoring 35 to 38, and Miami scoring about 21 to 24. So that's where we both like both team individual overs and the over 50 in total. But again, be careful and watch the line, because right now that seems to be the sharp money is going on the over, but a lot of public money is following that, and that makes us worry. So that's why we are not picking a side on this game. We are just giving you our lean because it's Thursday, but we absolutely are not making Thursday. We noticed the Thursday with the short rest, it's just such a hard call in comparison to the data we have on the Sunday games, which is much more consistent, as you have seen if you've been following us since the beginning. All right, now, anyway, let's go over the lines real quick. We have right now, as we just talked about Thursday night, Baltimore minus 7.5, and 50 is where we saw it as of yesterday. I didn't look at it before I came on today. I should have. I'm sorry, but I don't think there was too much movement thus far on these lines. So we're just giving you the lines right now anyway. And we'll tell you about little leans. Like we like Baltimore and we like the over, but again, it's just a lean. We're not set on any of these. Atlanta at New England, 45.5 is the total. New England is still 5.5. We liking New England. We love Vrabel. We love the culture. We love the coach. The quarterback is legit and spot on. He is the up and coming. In fact, I think he's like top 3 in the race for MVP as far as odds go. So Vegas knows what you may not. New England at home, definitely. But to us, this is a critical game. And even though it's only Atlanta, showing Vrabel teaching his team how to win the games they should win, right? So it's important there. Denver, we have minus 1.5 at Houston, 39.5. Both sides have amazing defenses. What we found out, though, is we've seen a line where Houston is giving 1 or 1.5. So if that's the case, that's a 3-point swing. And we believe right now we're leaning. I'm a Denver guy through and through right now for my end of year ticket, amongst other things. And I believed in Bo Nix with fantasy from week 1, as I told you guys. I believe in this coach. I believe in Denver as an organization. That being said, the sharp side on this game right now, we know for fact, is Houston. Houston is the sharp side. It's probably going to be one of our calls Friday night of the 5. But Houston is, for whatever, for better or for worse, as they say, Houston, if you can get Denver giving Houston the 1.5, definitely take that, dog. If Houston is giving 1.5, I would say, at this point, we're going to wait, because we think that because of the Houston win last week and Dallas, over Dallas, and the recency bias, we think that the public will bet Denver on the backside, especially if they're taking points, if Houston's giving. So let that play out. We think that if you wait till Friday or Saturday, or even Sunday if you can, we think that line will come back down, and Houston will be taking a point, or it might be even. We don't really like Houston giving a 1.5. If you had to take it now, how I would approach it, or we would approach it, is we would take Houston and buy back the 1.5. So you're getting a little bit less payout, or having to put up more, probably 150, 160 for the 100. But I don't like giving the points where the team should be a dog. Chargers are 10 right now currently at the Titans, and 42.5. Titans they're just a dumpster fire. They might be one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the league, and we don't know what to, because again, law of averages and everything. But Titans already got their 1 win. Like New York Jets got theirs last week versus Cincy in the meltdown. Titans got their 1 win, and getting 2 wins doesn't get you anything. So they got their 1 win, so they don't go 0-17, which is a moniker that teams don't want to have. But they got their 1 win. We think the Chargers are on the road to making the playoffs, and Harbaugh getting his team's head right. So right now, even though it's a big number, we're leaning the Chargers. Again, none of these are our picks. We're just telling you the early leans. We'll be back Friday to give you guys our picks. But if you want the early thought process, the lean right now is on the Chargers. Chicago at Cincinnati. Chicago giving 2.5, and 52.5 is the total. Based on the meltdown, Joe Flacco, and the meltdown. The danger to Cincy is they've got 2 of the best wide receivers in the game and can score at will. The problem with Cincinnati is, I would argue, the coaching, no quarterback, no defense, and as you saw last week against the Jets, no lead is safe. They were up by double digits, and they lost the game outright at home. So Chicago, again, on the rise. The coach trying to change the culture. Chicago has bought in. They were on a 4-game winning streak until last week when they ran into the buzzsaw at Baltimore. But they lost to a quality team, a historically quality team in Baltimore. We think, or lean Chicago in this. Honestly, we're probably going to stay away from this game altogether, because do you really want to have your money tied to Chicago having to cover 2.5, or Cincinnati at home, where no lead is safe? So we're probably going to skip it, but the lean is towards Chicago. San Fran at the Giants, another sharp bet. San Fran giving 2.5, and the total is up to 48.5. The sharp side right now, there is some smart money on this game in the over. The defense for San Fran is decimated. Both sides can move the ball. Jackson Dart as a running quarterback, it's a good spot. They're at home. We think that they're motivated to win. We think that they're motivated to save Dable's job. And San Francisco giving 2.5, we are leaning, believe it or not, on the Giants. We would lean Giants plus the 2.5 and over the 48.5 that it is up to. If you can get less than 48.5, of course you're going to take that, right? But the lean right now, but the sharp money is on the over in that game. Carolina at Green Bay. Green Bay's minus 12.5, and it went from 43.5 to 44.5. So a little bit of sharp money on that over. The problem we talked about earlier with Green Bay, this game should be a no-brainer, easy winner. Problem is, Green Bay on and off, serious and mess around. We don't know what's happening in Green Bay. They're not quite all dialed in yet, and therefore 12.5 is a lot of points to lay for a team that will keeps letting bad teams hang around. There it is. You know, I'll say this about Green Bay. They seem right now to be playing up or down to their competition, and that's dangerous whenever you're a favorite and laying big points. Let me go into this too before I go any further. Is last week the favorites covered in an unprecedented fashion. I used Google AI, looked it up. Never has there been a week like there was last week where every favorite but two, I think, covered and won by an average of double digits. So the house, the books, they're not in the business of handing out money, and they got it wrong. Although a lot of public now bet dogs, so the book didn't take such a smash like you think they did. The books ended up losing, and they're going to dial in these lines a lot tighter based on what happened last week, and we expect some regression or some dogs to be covering this week. We just haven't decided who and where, which ones yet. So be weary of that, because last week was unprecedented. Like, again, 11 out of 13, and then you count Sunday night and Monday night, right, with Green Bay favorite and Kansas City favorite. So all the favorites, it's not going to happen back to back, we don't think. It could, but we don't think it's going to happen. And so be careful. Indy, the Colts -3. We talked about this game in length already because we think that Pittsburgh at home, 49.5. Indy giving 3. It's not about Pittsburgh right now leading in the North. It's the perception that the public, like the league, these guys are all human. Pittsburgh has an aura about them. They're an old, established, 7-time Super Bowl franchise. Tomlin, respected, defense and running the ball. You got Rodgers at quarterback that can make people pay with a mistake at any moment. So all that being said, we think Indy really is going to put it to themselves that this is the game that they win to show themselves in the league they're at the top tier with some of the other better teams like KC. Whether you agree with that or not, we think that that's the mentality that they have going into this game. So we are leaning on Indy. Going back to the Green Bay game, we're leaning on the over. We don't like a side on that one at all because, again, with the Green Bay on and off thing. But if you gun to my head, we would probably take Green Bay minus the points because they're just the better team by far. And Carolina is a bad road team. So, and Andy Dalton is probably starting for Carolina, more to the point than by Friday. Green Bay might end up being one of our picks if all of that's turn out. We got to do more research, and we'll let you guys know. Detroit at home against Minnesota. Their backup quarterback is going in for shoulder surgery. Wentz is out. So J.J. McCarthy is getting a start. There's no hiding anymore. You saw J.J. play in a game where he came back from behind to win in Chicago on Monday night, and it was a big deal and all that. But that being said, something's going on with this team where they're not very in a hurry to start J.J. We haven't seen a lot of promise out of the guy yet. We don't know what to think of him yet. What little we've seen, it's left us more questions than answers. Detroit, we know what we're getting. We talked about it in length already earlier today. So Detroit at home, -8.5 is the line right now. Some sharp money came in on Minnesota at 47.5. That hasn't moved too much, but the 8.5 went down from 9.5. We'll take the 8.5 all day. We love Detroit. We think Detroit's on a mission, and we think that they're Super Bowl bound. That we know that they know this is their window, and they have learned how to put their foot on a throat. So we would lean Detroit in that game. We'll let you know Friday. LA Rams at home versus the New Orleans Saints, 13.5 and 44.5. Another dumpster fire in New Orleans. Last week, we were lucky we stayed away from New Orleans when a lot of the sharp money was telling us, take New Orleans. We just said, man, Tampa Bay's a runaway freight train. We didn't want to step in front of that freight train until they show us something different. And we were lucky we didn't, because Baker Mayfield, yet again, and that defense showed why they are where they are. And New Orleans showed why they are where they are, which Shug may be starting this week because Rattler got the yank. Even more so, we may be looking harder at the Rams. I hate all this chalk. I hate being on the favorite side this heavy. But you know, I'm just saying about how we don't think that it can happen, lightning striking twice with all these favorites. Well, I'm talking myself kind of into it right here, because I'm telling you right now, I would take Detroit, I would take the Rams, I would take Green Bay, gun to my head, and I would take New England and Baltimore. So a lot of favorites are looking really juicy again this week, and we know that that's not the way the books run. They're not handing out money. So we're doing a really in-depth dive this week. We may only end up having 3 games for you guys instead of 5, because we're worried about the regression of the favorites the dogs over the favorites. But we'll let you know when we post on Friday. Jacksonville -3 and 43.5, now 44.5. Jacksonville, clearly the better team, but Pete, pretty good coach, and he gets a lot out of his players. We don't know the status of Max Crosby yet. Even if he does play, is he 100%? Geno is just another dumpster fire. A good riddance for him leaving Seattle. One of the best moves that Schneider made, getting rid of him and bringing in Darnold. That being said, we haven't decided on this one. Gun to my head, I would take Jacksonville because they've shown me more this year. But I know Pete and all Pete's days as a Seahawk coach. And I have a lot of respect for Pete. That I don't willy-nilly just bet against him, because I've got to see some red flags for me to bet against Pete. Don't forget, Pete beat Vrabel and the New England Patriots in Week 1. Again, it was Week 1. I get that, but he did it. He beat them, so that wasn't easy. KC -1.5 at Buffalo. 51.5 is the total. Right now, we are strongly leaning on Kansas City based on everything we've seen. We know Buffalo's back to moving. Last week, Buffalo was our pick. Buffalo made us that money, and it was an easy win at 40 to 7 was the final, whatever it was. It was over by the third quarter, and you were coasting home and just waiting to cash your ticket. That being said, we think this is one of those back and forth games. Huge edge to KC's defense. Huge edge to winning experience. Huge edge to all the wide receivers being back and in full form now for KC. A smaller edge on the running game to Buffalo with Josh Allen and Cook's legs. But it's going to come down to, we think, coaching. Huge edge to Andy Reid. So in this one, we really do like Kansas City early at -1.5. We think that there's going to be a big split on this because Kansas, the Chiefs Nation, as they call them, they're going to bet heavy on the Chiefs. The Buffalo Mafia is going to bet heavy on Buffalo. We think the public is more Buffalo, especially at home with the points. And people kind of like, anti-Chiefs, anti-dynasty and all that. Mahomes gets all the calls with the refs and all that. So public perception, people are rooting for Buffalo. That being said, I'm rooting for money. And I want my money to cash. And in this game, what I do think is I think it's not going to be an easy winner. It's going to go back and forth, back and forth. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be one of those games you bet because you want the excitement, win or lose. But if you're looking to make money, there's easier games on the board this week than Kansas City and Buffalo is my point. Okay, Sunday night, Seattle -3 and 46.5, up from 45.5. Jaden Daniels is looking like he's going to play. No major injuries to speak of on Seattle side. I just read Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, will be out. He re-injured something in the last game against Kansas City, and so he's out. That's a huge hit. Debo, he's a baller. He comes through for you, but he's one guy. And Zach Ertz, aging, Right now, we're leaning Seattle at -3 at 3.5. I kind of would be more on Washington. I don't like it, but the number is, sometimes you got to go with the number rather than the team. But we'll let you know Friday as well. Again, no rush on that one. And Monday night, Arizona at Dallas. We have Dallas at -3 and up 53.5 from 52.5. But that being said, I saw today across the board that Dallas was more 2.5. So I'm going to mark down 2.5 here. But I will say that right now, Arizona has been one of those plucky teams. They lose, but they're in the games till the end, and they scare you. They don't go away easily. Their defense is got heart. They play till the 60 minutes and overtime if necessary. We like Dak at home. Dak's playing lights out, MVP level. He's got two of the best wide receivers, Pickens and Lamb. They're running the ball well, but they can't stop a nosebleed as well. I think that's why the early money from the wise guys is betting on the over. That being said, right now we'd lean Dallas and the over, but again, nothing needs to be today, so we're going to take a look at it and let you guys know. So that is all the leans. One last thing I wanted to talk about. Remember at the beginning we talked about the referees. Well, the referees, man, again, there is some shady stuff going on. And I told you guys about, why don't they recruit ex-players? Why don't they start a program where they're getting the ex? It wouldn't take but 3, 4, 5 years till we would have full saturation of ex-players refereeing the league, because the biggest thing on top of everything else is the players know the game. They wouldn't be intimidated by situations. When it's at the end of the game, like a Hail Mary, the referees swallow the whistle. You're never going to get a bailout call, even if there's a full-on yanking somebody down pass interference. They don't call it, and they should. If it's there, they should call it. I believe that they should call what's there. Come to a standard on holding what is or isn't holding from the start of the game and be consistent. Holding and illegal contact, all these BS calls that the referees make to change the outcomes of games and change momentum and take away or give a team more possessions or more downs and all that. All this stuff is happening. All we want is the best, fair, best call they can make in the moment. Get it right and be consistent, right? But that's not them, because of what? They want control, and it's all about control. It's all about determining. Again, this isn't WWE. This isn't wrestling. The players aren't in on it. This isn't scripted. But as anyone who's watched football long enough can tell you, if a side judge, a referee, any of the zebras, just one throws a flag or 2 or 3 flags throughout the game and can change the course of that game with that one flag, that one call, give them 3 more downs, whatever. A team like Kansas City is still probably going to trounce, like you saw a team against like Washington, because like Kansas City turned it over twice and Washington couldn't do anything with those 2 turnovers. But the middle of the pack, and especially in a big game, 1, 2, or 3 calls absolutely can determine the winner of an outcome of a game, and that's what we think is going on. And we think that now that so much attention is being brought to it, the NFL is going to have no choice but to have to address it. And so, like we said from the beginning, there's no inside scoops. Anybody that tells you, we've got the inside scoops, we can tell you, guarantee you who's going to win, they're liars. They're absolute liars. What you can do is take all the data, all the information, do your best homework, believe your eyes. Again, you can't account for the refs, especially the dirty ones, but what you can account for is, in all likelihood, right, what's going to happen. Like Cynthia Froyland is a major mathematician, and she is one of the deadliest spot-ons when it comes to outcomes of games. She runs 10,000 simulations, and she does all this homework. She's one that we absolutely follow and check with every week. We'll give her a shout out. And our point to that is, you can be right on everything and still be wrong because of one ref. And so one of the things we apply is we look at a game and we try to stay away from the games that seem to matter, and we try and take the games that is like either too hard for them to juice, too hard for them to manipulate because everybody's watching, or it's one of those games that nobody really cares, and so they're going to let them play, and the better team that day should win. And we also even look at like narrative. Is there a narrative that they're trying, that we think like, oh, the narrative, like what we said earlier in this cast, we said if we believe our conspiracy theory, Jim Irsay dies. He's one of 32 billionaires. The other 31 millionaires are going to give him a salute or a tribute, if you will. And Indy is going to get a lot of calls this year by the refs, and it's going to steer them to the playoffs to kind of give Irsay that farewell, bon voyage. Thanks for being one of the 32 owners. And billionaires do run the world, if you haven't realized by now. So that kind of narrative is interesting. We're keeping an eye on that narrative with Indy. Not to take away anything from the players, because the players are good and Indy is playing so good. We hate that this has become part of the narrative. Like, again, going back to Katrina with the New Orleans Super Bowl, because Drew Brees is a baller. The whole team, they all worked hard. They all played their butts off. They all earned their, we believe, earned the win. But did they get a few calls along the way that year? You'd have to go back and look, but it makes sense, right? Is my point. So we're keeping an eye on that. Lastly, I will say, and interestingly enough, we're toying with the idea of giving you a direct number that you can call me directly, and last minute, and where you need a consult and a breakdown for a game for a small fee and for our time and effort. We'll make our number published here on the thumbnails, and you'll be able to get to me directly, and for a small fee for our time and our efforts, we were more than happy to walk you through any game that you have questions on. And again, we wouldn't tell you guarantee or anything, because that's BS, but we would walk you through our best guess based on the average of 80 hours a week we put into this every week, listening to all the experts and all the pundits and all the analysis, and running all the numbers and doing all the simulations, and then going to people like Cynthia, who runs 10,000 simulations per game, and we take her information, very, very critical in our analysis. That's why we think that our over-unders have been doing so well, is in large part to people like her who have these proprietary algorithms that they're running and giving us the information. And I'm combining all that information. And when we get like the three top people that we put our faith in that have been hitting at 80% or better thus far this year, like whether it's a talk show host, a podcast guy, like Cynthia, and some other things, and we've got a couple of things proprietary ourselves that we look at and run, and we see, but when all of them overlap, and like last week when the Tampa game, a lot of people bet the over. We took the under in that game, we'll show you the pictures again if on this one, where we took Green Bay and the over, but Kansas City and the under. Kansas City and the under is a tough one because they were laying 11.5, but we got that right because there was so much overlap to the real ones that are hitting on all cylinders. Agreed, and we agreed Kansas City looked like a better under bet based on the algorithm and the simulations and what we foresaw and everything, and we were fortunate enough that hit. That all comes to fruition, so we would be able to walk you through any game that you might have a question on, and it would be for something very little, like $50. It would be like a $50 PayPal thing, but we'll get to that. Again, we're not going to start that this week, so don't even worry about it. But we're toying with it because as we get late into the season, especially around Thanksgiving and beyond, and especially during the playoffs, we are killer at the playoffs. One of our claims to fame is since the New York Giants upset Buffalo. We were wrong. We were on the wrong side of that game, that Super Bowl. But since that Super Bowl, we have hit every Super Bowl since then. And one of our most famous Super Bowls, we took Denver against Green Bay. When Green Bay was laying points, we literally took Denver laying points on an alt line because we were that sure. And another one that we were proud of was Tampa when they beat the Oakland Raiders back in the day under John Gruden. We nailed that one. We in fact we bet. We had a bunch of friends. We took a lot of money to Vegas where we were laying $5,000 and $10,000 bets down for people because we had talked them all into Tampa at even minus points, minus more than whatever the line was. I don't even remember what the line was anymore, but I remember we took Tampa at -3 and -7, and we won both, of course, obviously. But anyway, so we haven't lost Super Bowl since then. We had a close call on one where it was Washington and Buffalo. We had taken Buffalo early, and we scrambled at the last minute, and we tripled our bet on Washington because we found out there was such a heavy public outpour on Buffalo that Super Bowl. We knew very late, but about an hour to go, we were on the wrong side. And so from we bet 1,000 on Buffalo, we ended up betting 3,000 on Washington, that kind of a thing. We did that as well. So we've been pretty good in the playoffs because, again, the more data you have, the more accurate you can be. That's why we don't put a lot of stock into week 1, 2, 3, and 4 because everything's just coming out. And last year doesn't matter as much as you think compared to new team, new year, and all that. So now that we're in the week 8, week 9, we hope and we think that we'll be going forward and hitting at a higher clip because of all the work we put in. So that being said, thanks again for checking in with us on our weekly wrap up. We appreciate you guys. As always, aloha and mahalo. Be good to yourselves. Be kind to each other. And we'll see you guys late Friday or early Saturday. Aloha.